Warning, there may be possible spoilers present in the gameplay footage of this video. Also, I want to give a special thanks to Bandai Namco Entertainment America and Abyssal Chronicles for giving me an early code for the Tales of Arise demo. The opinions I express in this video are my own and do not reflect on anyone at Bandai Namco or Abyssal Chronicles. Thank you. Hey there guys, this is Flamzeron, aka YouTube's Tasuke, and I've got quite the special treat for you guys tonight, or today, or whenever you're watching this. I'm actually recording this the morning before this will probably go up, because this is actually kind of a timely thing. What is this timely thing, you might be asking? Well, I actually got an early code for the demo of Tales of Arise. Yep, that's right, I actually get to play something early for once. That being said, I only got to play this demo early because I'm part of Abyssal Chronicles, so I wanted to give a special thanks to Abby and Abyssal Chronicles and all my colleagues and friends. And I also wanted to give another special thanks to Bandai Namco Entertainment America for providing me and my other Abyssal Chronicles friends with an early code to download the demo. 2 days early. Of course, at this point, it's going to be 1 day early. So, I would also wanted to take this time to kind of talk about the game a little bit more, because quite frankly, I kind of dropped the ball on you guys, especially those of you who don't listen to the podcast, which we're currently taking a break on, by the way, if you didn't know. But basically, there's been a lot of stuff about Tales of Arise that has come out, both about the release date, the collector's edition, details about the game's characters, the opening, just a bunch of stuff, you know. And so I didn't really talk about it because I'm not really a major news channel. I don't really talk about every little thing that comes in and out. Depending on the game or the subject, I will. It kind of depends. I usually leave that to the podcast, though, again, you know, we haven't really been doing it that much. And even then, when we were, it's like there wasn't really too much Tales news that would come out. I would talk about the stuff that I felt like was relatively important, but the stuff that didn't really seem that substantial, I didn't really talk too much about. So I basically just kind of took the news in and, you know, didn't really think much about it. But I figured I would use that time to talk about that now and kind of, you know, kill multiple birds with one stone that are trying to figure out why they fly. That's a Berseria reference for those of you who don't get it. But, yeah, so I'm going to do that. And I'm also going to talk about my experience playing the demo, because I did play the demo. In fact, as of this recording, I just got finished playing it like a couple hours ago. And I'm going to let y'all know what I think. I do want to go ahead and say real quick that these opinions are completely my own. And even though I was given this code by Bandai Namco and Abyssal Chronicles, I'm going to be honest with what I think about this game, but in no way do my opinions represent anybody from either party. This is entirely my opinion on this game and this demo. Normally I wouldn't say this kind of stuff, but I feel like given kind of what this is and kind of how I got it, I feel like it's important for me to be as transparent as possible. And so once again, special thank you to Abyssal Chronicles and Bandai Namco Entertainment America for giving me this early code to download the demo. Also, I'm going to be fucking honest. I will go ahead and say I did like the demo. I enjoyed it. So get that out of the way right now. But yeah, before we get into the actual demo, though, I want to kind of talk about some of the news stuff that came about this and kind of some interesting tidbits, because along with all the news that was coming out, myself and the other Abyssal Chronicles people actually got some inside info. That's right. It doesn't really matter at this point now because embargo's over, and in the grand scheme of things, it was actually kind of minor. All I really knew were just the identities of 2 playable characters and the type of band that they were going to use for the opening theme song. So not really anything too major. And there will be links in the description to as many articles as I can include to kind of talk about everything. And I'll also have a link, if it's still up, to my friend Kiki's stream. I actually took part in her stream where we played the demo together for the first time, and kind of, I say together because this has been kind of a bit of a controversy with the game, but actually the game is single player only, meaning no multiplayer. Granted, the game wasn't going to be online multiplayer anyway, but yeah, so she streamed the game, and I was there with her. She's a cool cat. Check it out in the description. Thank you. So, yeah, firstly, the big thing that we kind of got that came around in April was we actually got a new trailer as well as a release date and some extra consoles. So since this is going to be going up pretty soon after I record this, or I'm going to try my darndest to, I'll go ahead and say the game is coming out September 10th, 2021. And in Japan, it's going to be coming out a day early, whereas the rest of the world's getting it on the 10th. And not only for PS4 and Steam and Xbox One, it's also coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X, or Xbox Series, I guess, because you can technically play it on the Xbox Series X and the Xbox Series S. And I do want to note, based on what I've seen, it seems like there's no distinction between the Xbox One and the Xbox Series X version. From what I understand, it's just the Xbox version, and depending on what you played on, the game will be kind of, up-resed and whatnot. And of course, the game's coming to PS5, and obviously the Steam version is going to be probably closer to the PS5 and Xbox Series X version than the PS4 version. I pre-ordered the PS4 version, kind of like what I did with Zestiria. I wanted to kind of honor sort of what I feel like the game was probably most likely being developed for. Again, my standing is not high enough to know the development cycle, so again, these opinions are my own. Conjecture is my own, and it's just that, conjecture. I do know some things, and I do know what I know, but I don't know everything, so I want to make that very clear. But I'm of the opinion that even after playing the demo, I still feel like that this game was kind of meant to be played on the PS4. But yeah, we got that, and we also got information on 2 new characters. Or actually, we got to learn about pretty much all the characters. We got Rinwell, who may or may not be my waifu. I must protect her. But I know she's a mage. We heard she was that chick, or I'm pretty sure she's the character that was shown passing out in the last trailer before this one. And then also Law, who's a fist fighter. He seems pretty cool. He goes around punching people and stuff. So we got information about those two. Those two, Law was completely brand new to me, and obviously Rinwell we had seen a little bit of, but yeah, it was pretty cool. And along with the regular release of the game, we're getting Collector's Edition. And here's the thing that one of the things that I find kind of interesting about this game. The Collector's Edition is for every console available. Again, with the Xbox, it's combining, Xbox One and Xbox Series, whatever. But for, there's also the PS4 and the PS5 version of the Collector's Edition. And there's one for North America and Europe and Southeast Asia. I don't know if Japan's getting one. But, yeah, to me, this is kind of interesting because it seems like this Collector's Edition is actually being mass-produced. As opposed to being an actual, limited, more akin to a limited edition. Like most Collector's Editions are, where, they make a handful, but, they kind of stop after a while. Whereas this kind of seems like they've made a fair amount of them, because, one, it's available for every system. Of course, that also kind of has to do with the fact that, the game is multi-platform anyway, so it's it's not really that hard to, do that. But at the same time, thinking about it, it's I still find that kind of interesting how mass-produced this seems to be, because it seems like there was a fair amount. As far as I understand, there's still a fair amount of them that are available to buy. And the collector's editions from the different regions have different stuff. It's a little... I'm getting slight East 9 vibes from the costume DLC that seems to be with the digital version, which I'm a little concerned about. So I really hope that you actually get to get those costumes, because they've already shown off the school uniform costumes, and you know that's my jam. And also there's a cool sort of Warring State. They're calling it the Warring States pack, and Alfin looks really cool with his samurai armor, so I'm more than likely gonna put him in that, and I'll probably put Rinwell in the school uniform costume, and I'll put other characters and other stuff. I've got the page open now. They all look really cool. Got kind of a premium costume pack, which is, of course, the beach pack. I'm kind of rambling here, but basically, it's they're kind of they really gave us a lot of stuff at once, which is kind of interesting. It makes me kind of wonder how the news cycle of this game would have been if the game or if COVID wasn't a thing, because that did seem to kind of hurt things. They even announced at one point that the game was getting delayed, and they did say that, you know, they weren't too affected by COVID. To some extent, obviously they were. I feel like everyone was affected by COVID in one way or another, but yeah, so lots of different collector's editions you can get if you're that kind of guy. Obviously, I got the PS4 version. Not even really that expensive either. It's like I got for the North American one, it's $189.99, so $190. That's actually not too bad, because I think Berseria was $200, maybe even No, $250. It was either $200, $230, or $250. It didn't go to $300. That's another franchise went to $300, and that was also kind of controversial. But and you know, obviously I already mentioned the whole like single player thing, and everyone going up in arms about that. Again, want to reiterate, these opinions are my own. I do not represent anyone but myself as an independent person and a fan of this series. However, with that in mind, I feel like people are kind of not really losing their shit over nothing, but I feel like, given what I'm trying to say, I don't think it was really that big a deal. I do enjoy playing the Tales series with my friends, and I feel like that's sort of what makes the Tales series, or one of the reasons that makes the Tales series kind of fun, is that you can actually legitimately play it with your friends. But at the same time, you know, as people get older, people kind of, you know, move away. You still keep in touch with people, but they go to different areas. One thing I'm noticing is that, like, people's console of choice seems to change. A lot of my friends are kind of PC gamers, or sometimes they'll get like one system but not the other that I happen to get or whatever. But so that's just kind of life, you know, to put it bluntly. I do think it would have been cool if they had a multiplayer, and I think it maybe could have been done. For example, you know, Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Donna, you're going to hear me compare this game to the two recent Ys games a couple of times, but in the PC version, they actually had a patch that made the game co-op. So it can be done with this kind of game. Those who've seen the gameplay footage kind of know sort of what I'm referring to, and we'll get to that as we continue onward. But yeah, ultimately, I don't really think it's that big a deal. At the end of the day, you know, this is a story-based game, you know. Playing games with your friends and watching as well, that's something that was fun. I remember watching, you know, my two best friends, you know, Nick playing through Castlevania Symphony of the Night one time, and then AJ playing through Kingdom Hearts 2. You know, Troy would watch him play Skyrim and Assassin's Creed 3 and 4, and just different stuff, you know, like watching your friends playing games is fun. And the point I'm trying to get at that is that, like, you know, you can enjoy, you know, playing video games with other people without actually playing the game. You know, sometimes it's just fun to watch, you know, and kind of get the story that way, you know. That's just kind of how it goes. But yeah, that's just my little slight, that's probably the most controversial thing well, I was about to catch myself and be like, well, that's not the only thing, but, you know. But then down the line, we got the Summer Game Fest trailer, along with an Elden Ring trailer, which maybe I'll talk about that in the future. Again, I don't really talk about game news that often. The Tales series being my favorite video game series, I feel like giving the series these special treatments, like I did my thoughts on the Berseria demo and everything we knew at the time, back when that was a thing. And I also did a State of the Tales series video. And of course, I do the first impression of Vesperia Definitive Edition and all that stuff. So the Tales series, even though I have like my standard of and style and format of video making, I generally kind of override the rule with Tales and Dragon Ball, for that matter, because they're my two favorite things. So I kind of give them sort of a pass a little bit. I may ultimately market, quote unquote, my review of Tales of Arise when the game actually comes out and I play through it a little differently, but we'll see kind of how that goes. But yeah, we got a new trailer which revealed two new characters Duhalim and Kisara. Those are the two characters I actually kind of knew about, roughly. I didn't know what they looked like, but I knew about Duhalim being a king, and I knew Kisara's name. But Duhalim, he's pretty dang cool. I don't usually play as the characters who don't use a sword. That's kind of been a trend of mine with the Tales series. At this point, I am kind of more than happy to break that trend, especially considering, one, Duhalim has red hair, so he looks pretty cool, and also me having some Lebanese heritage, sort of like the sort of desert or sort of Middle Eastern look. I don't know if that's necessarily what they're going for. For all I know, it could just be like, the dark Asian thing that they did for Gar and Loney and a couple other characters. But he looks really cool. And, the staff thing is cool. How he plays based on the demo, again, we'll get to that later on. But basically, I think he's cool. And Kisara, she's pretty cool. Her armor looks cool. And, her fighting style seems to be pretty interesting. Got the big shield thing going on. It's been a while since we've seen, like, huge shields. And, again, her armor looks pretty cool. It's almost got sort of like on the front, almost has like a harp sort of musical motif. I don't know kind of where the design philosophy in that came from, but she looks cool. And I do want to note that all the characters, including Alphen and Shion, they're all drawn by Minoru Iwamoto, who he mainly did the Radiant games and like Kanono and all that, and some other characters here and there. I think he did a couple of people in Zestiria and Berseria, but here he's drawing all of them. So no Mutsumi Inomata or Kosuke Fujishima drawing the characters, which is unfortunate, but, who knows? Maybe they'll come back. And Daigo Okumura, I assume, is doing the monsters. I'd have to look back and see. But if not, it'd be kind of interesting if it's all just Iwamoto, which, he's a good artist. I like his work. But, I do also like my Fujishima and my Inomatas and my Okumuras even. But, yeah, so this was a cool trailer, just kind of further show more stuff and more characters and more gameplay and combat and all that. That was the main thing that I wanted to kind of see from this trailer, was combat. That was something I wanted to see from the beginning. And finally, during E3 and Summer Game Fest, we got actual, like, legit gameplay, like combat, which, again, we will get to during the demo. Kind of more of a bit of a side, and this also just kind of just sort of shows, in some ways, one, how far Tales has come globally, though this doesn't necessarily apply to Japan, I suppose, but also just kind of where media is at this point, because we actually got a VTuber, ambassador sort of thing. Takanashi Kiara, KFP extraordinaire, is the official ambassador for Tales of Arise. She did some videos about it. I haven't watched any of them. Quite frankly, I'm more of an Amelia Watson and Calliope Mori kind of guy, and I like Gura as well. So, and I like Kiara as well. I don't really watch. I watched her. I think it was 1 million subs or 1,000 subs special where she did a karaoke. But that's kind of cool. And one of the costumes for Kisara actually kind of looks like they're trying to sort of go for like a Kiara sort of look. I don't know if that's sort of what they're going for. I don't know, but it's cool. As far as the other stuff to note, the opening theme song, for one thing, the game, they did say that there's going to be, in fact, a fair amount of anime cutscenes and as well as an anime opening, which we've already seen because we actually got the actual like opening with the theme song and whatnot. And that was another thing that I was sort of tipped off on. We didn't know who, but we had a strong inkling because it was implied that it was going to be a male group. A boy band was the word that was used around in the server. My first thought was Spire, quite frankly. I felt like, oh, that'd be kind of cool if they got Spire, but it wasn't. It's actually a band called Kankaku Piero, which I'm not too familiar. I'm probably mispronouncing that. Apparently they sung a Black Clover song. Again, not familiar. But the big thing here, the song is called Hibana, but the big thing here, which is kind of something we haven't seen in the Tales series very often, is that the international version is actually going to have an English sung version by the band. And both versions have been uploaded, and so you can listen to them both, and they both sound really good. And, The pronunciation and diction and all that of the English version is good. And honestly, even in the Japanese version, there's some English thrown around, which is kind of interesting. It makes me kind of wonder if maybe the English version is the quote-unquote official version of the song. But this is really cool. We've had English Tales openings before. Obviously the first time with Vesperia, to where, like, Bonnie Pink did an English version for the international version of the game. And, of course, both versions were kind of released close together anyway. And then with Grace's, that one kind of happened by accident because it was a Boa song. I think it's called White Wishes. I don't remember. But she is a multilingual singer, and she sings in English sometimes. And she did an English version of White Wishes just because she could. And so when Grace's came out, and again, this is just my opinion, I seriously, seriously doubt that they planned that far in advance. Like, oh, we're going to do an English version of this game. Hey, Boa, you can speak English. You should sing the song in English. I am of the opinion that it was all hapstance, that like, oh, well, there's an English version right here. Let's just use that. I think that's kind of what happened. But we got an English version of the song. From that was, in my opinion, already made. Again, I don't know for sure. That's just my opinion, my conjecture. Again, I don't represent nobody but myself. I just want to make that clear. I know I haven't really said too much that's controversial right now, but we'll get there. So I think this is actually really cool. The song's nice too. Just gives me a new band to kind of try and listen to more of. I always like hearing the Tales openings, and I always watch them when I get the new game, and usually at this point they play it twice. Once when you start up the game, and then the second time when you actually get to a certain point in the story that's considered the opening of the game or whatever. So typically I'll hear it twice. But it's a good song, both the English and the Japanese version. I kind of like the English version more, but both are really good. And another kind of a more controversial, at least from a Westerner's perspective, from what I've seen on Facebook and whatnot, the skits are a bit different. They're more of a comic book style with 3D animated models. I'll go into kind of how I feel about that when we get to it, but that's something that I wanted to note. And also the game this game has more, there's like camping and fishing and all that, and cooking and stuff. Again, I'll get into that in the demo, but and obviously you've seen it by now because at this point I'm using the footage. Besides the disclaimer at the beginning, it's been straight footage. Like I played it while my friend Kiki was streaming, which again, check the link in the description. Even if it's not there, I'm still gonna have the link, so at the very least you'll find her Twitch page. But yeah, so we were playing it at the same time. So I recorded my footage. So this footage is from that play session, so that's kind of why it seems sort of like scattered and whatnot, because one, we had some timing stuff going on, and also I just kind of wanted to like explore and kind of stuff. You can probably see that I had a lot of fun just sort of jumping around and stuff, but basically there's a lot that this game is kind of throwing in, but I guess we should maybe go into that, with a little thing called the demo. So here's the down low on the demo. I played the PS4 version. The demo is going to be available for everyone except for PC, I'm afraid. It's going to be available on PS4, PS5, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X. No PC demo, unfortunately. Maybe there'll be one down the line, but we'll know. They're more than likely trying to iron out the kinks with it because, quite frankly, the PC version of these games is not their priority. They're trying to get the game ready for the console because they know that that's what people are playing on. That's just a hard truth. There are lots of people playing on PC, but in my opinion, it is a minority. In the grand scheme of things, at least. I know there are plenty of people who would disagree, but anyway, demo time. So I don't really know where it takes place in the game, but it takes place during a time where you have your entire party. Forced or not, it's kind of hard to say. But graphically, the game is beautiful. That's the first thing I noticed. It's very vibrant. It does look a little pastel-y, and I think part of that is because I think the game is, although I think the game is being designed on at this point previous gen hardware, I think they maybe are kind of hoping that you'll play the game on PS5 and whatnot, because not only did the game look kind of pastel-y in sort of like a low poly kind of way, but also, and part of that might have to do with my Elgato as well, so maybe I should play the demo again, and maybe the footage, because I did notice the footage looked a little cleaner and crisper when I was looking at it on my computer while I was recording it, so sort of like a while I'm recording update, but there's a chance that I might be wrong about sort of how it looks, but at the time it did kind of look like the game was being, I was like a notch lower on the graphics settings, but the lighting and the shadows and the shading, it looked really good. Like it looked really nice and really sort of like polished and made the game look a lot very sort of like high quality, and because it's on Unreal Engine 4 I believe, and it looked great. But like I said, it does kind of look like you are meant to kind of play it on current gen / next gen, depending on how you look at things hardware, meaning PS5 and Xbox Series S/X, probably X, and PC if you have a high-end PC. I didn't really hear enough of it, but the music seemed all right. Didn't really offend or anything. I liked the battle theme from what I could hear. It was kind of catchy and cool stuff. I enjoyed it, you know. I wasn't really focusing too much on the music. I was more focused on like the visual fidelity of the game, and while they are different in practice, the core of the skits I feel like kind of remained the same. They did show that in the skits, if you have a costume on, your character will be shown with that costume, which that kind of goes along with the 3D model thing, and of course the lip flaps move and whatnot. And the demo has an English and a Japanese sub that you can switch between the two, so you can kind of see sort of where things are. I can't speak for the translation. I know we're kind of at a point now with dual audio in games to where, like, when you pick the original language, depending on the game, sometimes they'll alter the subtitles to kind of make it match more, because it's sort of like a honest truth that dub scripts are punched up a little bit to make it, one, make sense in English, and two, fit in English, because the Tales series for the dubs are one of the games that I have noticed, and I don't know how true this is anymore, but they're not dubbing lip flaps, but they're trying to dub timing. And I assume that's because they don't want to try to have to code in more time, just because in English a line is longer than it is in Japanese. But honestly, like, I enjoyed the skits. They were nice, and they had just as much characterization as the previous games, which brings me to probably, in my opinion, the biggest positive about this. The dialogue is really snappy. The banter is nice. The characters kind of respond to each other in sort of a fun way. They're sort of like that camaraderie that most people would expect from a typical Tales game. I feel like it was just really fun to listen to all these characters talk and banter. And they kind of poke fun at each other. They tease each other. They help each other up. You know, they're honest with each other. We kind of learned that Alphen may probably be the bad cook of the game, or at the very least the one who likes to spice things up a lot, you know, based on one of the skits, which goes along with the campfire thing. But yeah, the dialogue, again, I can't speak for the translation, but at the very least, how it's written in English and how it's structured is great. Like, honestly, this is fantastic. Major props to the localization team and the writers who are crafting the skeleton in the original Japanese version. I think it's very, very good. That being said, it might mainly be because kind of like I was saying before, it's hard to tell where exactly the demo takes place in the story, because you have all the party members, and you don't usually start with the entire party. You know, in most Tales games, you get them over time, and I remember with Berseria, they actually for the story one, they gave you sort of like a later part in the demo where you have everybody, whereas here we don't really know yet. It wouldn't surprise me if when we play the games, like, okay, yeah, we're at that part in the demo now. Oh, that was actually later. But again, the characterization, great. Dialogue, great. You know, just I've only played the demo, and I only played like roughly 2 hours of it, like more like maybe an hour and fucking 50 minutes. I'm trying to kind of hold down the swearing, but I felt like I already kind of knew these characters a little bit. You know, I'm gonna have to maybe replay the demo again to get like a perfect sort of feel for them. But I feel like I feel like I kind of had a stronger inkling of these characters, and I felt like I was enjoying them much more than I was expecting to. Which, as far as fun goes, the world map, if you will, and sort of like the open field and whatnot is really fun. It's legitimately fun to just kind of explore and like go around the field and the map and everything. You can swim around and stuff. You can do the fishing thing. I don't think I tried the fishing, but you can do the campfire thing, and that's where you can like eat food. It's almost like Dragon Ball Z Kakarot in a way, where like you can kind of chill for a bit. The only difference here is that, like, you know, along with resting and eating, you actually can do like skits and whatnot. And you can actually replay skits and rewatch cinematics, which is cool. So if you want to kind of like rewatch something, and I did take some screenshots since I was recording the footage. I tried to avoid taking screenshots because I didn't want to just like bombard the footage with just like little doinks in like the corner, kind of like I did with the East 9 review. But yeah, it's like, it was really fun to just kind of walk around and explore. I almost just wanted to just do side quests and just kind of like walk around, and you know, the terrain is nice. It's like in Berseria, to where like it's instanced, but you know, you got your different pathways, and like there's a lot more layers and like terrain and sort of like cliffs and hills and pits and mountains and stuff. Like I feel like I'm playing an open world game like Skyrim or something, but on like a smaller scale, you know, like and it has like the details that you would want in those kind of games. So like it was just like really fun to just kind of explore. I felt like I was on like an adventure, sort of like an open world like adventure and stuff, and that like I was going on like some quest to like find gold or something, which that seemed to kind of be what Hideo Baba wanted. I know it's Tomizawa now. Yusuke Tomizawa was the new general producer of the Tales series. He actually came on from the God Eater series. He might be doing both series. That was something I was a little concerned with when he got announced to be the new general producer for the series. 'Cause I'm like, well, if you're going to be managing both series, aren't you going to get tired? Don't you want to relax a little bit? I mean, if he's doing both of that, then that's fine. But again, I don't really follow God Eater that much. But he's the new guy for Tales, and from what I can tell so far, I feel like from the general structure of how the Tales series is looked at and what we have available merchandise-wise, from what I can tell so far, because I don't really follow the series, in that way these days. And I kind of like to tease him a little bit, but it seems like he's doing pretty well from what I can tell. And I know the different games have different producers, and I wouldn't be surprised if Tales of Arise has multiple producers as well. Tomizawa is, you know, like Hideo Baba, where he's almost more like the public and the general producer, to where you're going to see him probably more often than you'll see like the producer for another game, unless it actually is relevant. But yeah, like it. Even with that in mind, you know, like I feel like the series is kind of going in a direction that seems to be kind of what they wanted. They wanted it to be kind of like this, from what I can tell, which that's going to kind of come into play with the combat part. But yeah, the world, like I honestly want to start playing the demo again, just kind of explore and stuff. Like, you know, it just looks fun. It just looks fun to kind of just wander around, explore. I had a lot of fun that you may have seen in the footage by now, jumping over cows back and forth, because you can jump over cows. That is the best feature so far. Partially joking, but yeah, so that's most of the positives. I do have a couple negatives, though. This one's more minor and more kind of noticeable and kind of hindsight. The menus are pretty simplified, and I know there are a couple of times where like I had a hard time figuring out how to get what I was trying to do. Like I was trying to put the game in manual mode, and it kind of took me a while to do that, because it seems like your party formation and sort of like and some other party stuff are like two separate menus, which is a little strange. But I was able to kind of figure it out, but I would forget whenever I would start the demo. And also, just they generally look pretty streamlined and simple, which is okay. But I kept forgetting what the proper button was, because it's the touchpad, I think, on PS4, whereas options is just like the pause button, which I guess makes sense. That might have been how Berseria did it as well, or it might have been the reverse. I don't remember. But that was something that I kind of had to sort of get used to, which not a big deal, but something that I'll probably have to deal with when I play the game again, until I kind of get, you know, the hang of it. Okay, now let's get to combat. Now this is the part that made me decide to put the disclaimer that my opinions are my own more than anything else. I want to kind of make this clear that this is just my opinion and this is just my views on sort of how it is. I'm not saying anything. I'm not trying to say anything negative about the game, but this is just my opinion. I'm still going to play the game and enjoy it, but I do have some slight concerns with the combat. Combat was interesting. Once we got gameplay footage from one of the trailers, I think it was from the Summer Game Fest trailers, or maybe even sort of like a E3 thing, it became very clear that this was going in a more, which is something I was sort of fearful of, but also kind of expecting and kind of okay with, a more standard action RPG approach that still had like the transitions and sort of like the ending to battles. I compared a lot to Ys 9 and Kingdom Hearts, to where it's kind of seamless and sort of more, not really button mashy, but definitely more, I would say watered down. And I mean that with all respect, because I like both Kingdom Hearts and the Ys games. Ys 9 is probably one of my favorite PS4 games right now. And Ys 8 before it as well. Like, I like action RPGs. That's my thing. You know, and even with Namco games in general, you know, like I'm playing Code Vein, I'm looking forward to Elden Ring, I played Dark Souls, Scarlet Nexus seems relatively interesting, and that seems to be where a lot of the Tales staff has gone to, which is kind of an interesting little tidbit. Or seems to be the Vesperia team. I don't know. But anyway, I like my action RPGs, and I especially like them to when they're simple, but they have a lot of, like, there's some, like, strategy behind it, and whatnot. And there's definitely some strategy here, but it felt sort of slower than both Ys 9 and Kingdom Hearts. A little more akin to, you know, Code Vein and Dark Souls. Not entirely, but similar. It had sort of like the art system kind of in place where you had your regular attacks, and then you had your face buttons, which is where you put your arts. And you also had like a different slot for your aerial arts, and you would have some arts that would launch you in the air and some arts that would launch you down. So you kind of have to sort of take note of different placements for your arts, and it is kind of back to how it used to be, to where you have your regular attack and your arts. The problem is the attack button is now default mapped at R1, which is a very strange choice in my opinion. I'm not really sure if I'll get used to it. Of course, I said the same thing about Code Vein, with the attack buttons being on the face buttons instead of R1 and R2, which is what I'm used to in Dark Souls. And of course, the Elder Scrolls, they have the attack buttons to the shoulder buttons. So what's the issue, Ryan? Well, I feel like for this game, it doesn't really work too well. In combat, I found that I was either primarily using my regular attacks or spamming my arts. I wasn't kind of doing what I used to do, whereas I would chain my regular attacks into my arts. And a lot of times, I would do the different, like, you know, do the up attack or the down attack or the back attack, and I would sometimes just do one attack and then the art, two attack and the art. Like, I had, like, my sort of, like, system, you know? Whereas here, it is a little button mashy, and that's not really a problem necessarily, but it's definitely kind of watered down from what I was expecting. That being said, you know, the dodge roll and whatnot, there is some strategy, and I feel like, for me, the game definitely benefited more to having the manual combat turned on rather than semi-auto, even though semi-auto probably would work better because I would run towards the enemy. I think it would make me help is if you could lock onto enemies better, because it has like it has the same camera as Berseria, to where you can kind of move it, but you're not really locked on your enemy, and that can be kind of beneficial if you want to hit multiple enemies at the same time, which, you know, in this kind of game you probably would want to do that because you're typically fighting more than one enemy. But I feel like with everything, it was kind of tough to get used to, and sort of the placement of the HUD was sort of awkward, like how your health was right behind your character, and I had a hard time telling my HP for my other characters. it wasn't until I kind of got a groove that I was able to kind of play quote unquote properly. But even then, I still kind of would fall into the whole, I'm just going to hit my attack button, or I'm just going to use my arts, and I would run out of CP is what they're calling it, your points for your arts and whatnot. But dodging was nice. Like when I fought the Mantis boss, I don't know if you'll see that because I don't know how long this footage is going to go, but like he would attack and I would kind of roll under the attack and dodge, and the game would take note of that and do like a little flash and like slow down thing. So it is kind of like East, to where like, you know, if you time your dodges properly, you can get points. Now that being said, the dodge and the guard button are the same, which I think is probably not the best idea, because then it's like, well, if you're gonna try and guard, why not just dodge? You know, it's like there are. I guess maybe the lesson there is to teach you, like, well, sometimes you can't dodge all the attacks, or sometimes you can't guard against all the attacks, so you have to kind of mix and match. But I feel like the game is kind of wanting me to do systematically one thing over another when it is trying to tell me to do both. So it kind of got to a point where I had to almost pretend like I was playing Dark Souls, and like that I was just fighting by myself, which I guess is good, because typically when I would play the Tales games, I don't always carry my weight because I have my party members with me, and I just kind of play the game and let them kind of do stuff. I just hit things until they die. I've gotten kind of better about it and more aware of my opponent when I would play the games, but with here, it was kind of hard to sort of get into that rhythm, you know, where I would do that. And you know, with the busy HUD, you know, it's like, and sort of like the placement, everything, it was kind of hard to keep track of stuff. And with the camera going the way it was, you know, I would sometimes either get really low on health or I would die. Like, I would be like, wait, what's going on? And of course, I would see that I'm getting hit by the enemy, but I'm just like, well, I was hitting him first, so like, what's the problem? But like I said, it definitely feels a bit more strategic than the last previous Tales games. Not to say that the other Tales games weren't strategic, but this one, I guess, more timing Dark Souls and more technical. Technical, that's a good way to put it. Like this battle system seems more technical, which is strange because, in my opinion, it seems kind of watered down and more like a typical action RPG that has a skill system where you do your special moves that you can use that use points and whatnot. Which, again, that's not bad. I made sort of my concerns with the future of the Tales series as early as Berseria, to where I felt like the series was at a weird sort of like Dark Souls 3 point where like I feel like I'm playing and looking at the charred remains of a franchise, and I'm picking up the pieces and playing what's left. And here, Tales of Arise, you know, they're trying to kind of evolve the franchise. That seems to be the big thing. They're trying to evolve the franchise. I'm kind of the impression after playing this demo that they have been maybe trying to evolve the series in this way for a while, which that's not a problem. I do feel like if they go too far, the series will maybe lose its identity, which story-wise, it doesn't seem to be doing that at all. And maybe they feel like, well, if the focus is on sort of the way we do our stories with the moral gray area and these really sort of like lovable characters that you just get to know and you kind of learn about them and you get to enjoy them as if they were real people, then sure, kind of like dumbing down the gameplay a little bit to kind of focus more on that story stuff is fine. But at the same time, like, the reason why I got into the Tales series in the first place was the combat. I remember, and I might have talked about this before, when I first rented Tales Symphonia for the GameCube when I was back in middle school. We rented it from Blockbuster, and on the way home, I got a little nervous thinking like, oh, what if I made a bad mistake? What if this is, you know, not really my thing? What if it's more turn-based? Because as I've said millions of times, I don't particularly like turn-based combat in games. I know that's like just the ultimate crime of being a JRPG fan. I get it. It's just not my thing. Please respect that opinion and don't comment if you're going to be mean and be like, ooh, like just don't waste my time. And don't waste your time either. It's just my opinion. Again, my opinions are my own. I'm not some authoritative figure on anything. These are just my opinions. But when I got home and I played the game and got into my first battle, I was blown away at the combat. The idea of kind of combining sort of like the structure of a turn-based Final Fantasy or Dragon Quest RPG with like how the game works outside of battle with a more action-y, almost side-scrolly kind of, depending on the game, combo-y combat of like a fighting game or just like a other kind of game, just like it blew my mind. I fell in love with the franchise at that moment. It blew my mind. And you know, in the past, I've, especially on the Tales series forum and different groups and stuff, I've been kind of critical of Symphonia. I've gotten to a point now to where I actually kind of respect Symphonia pretty highly, because I feel like, one, you know, I do genuinely think it's a good game. Two, I feel like the characters are good and do the Tales formula really well. And three, just what it did for me as a gamer and a fan, and got me into JRPGs and stuff, or more into JRPGs. I still am primarily just a Tales of guy, but, you know, I like the Mana series and Star Ocean. I feel like playing other JRPGs only strengthened my love for the Tales series, because I saw what other games were doing well and not so well, and then I would see the Tales series do those things better and sort of see their strengths and weaknesses. And I feel like that's more of a higher concept, sort of be into all games kind of mentality. And I'm not saying go out of your comfort zone that much, but that's quite the ramble. But yeah, to get back on topic, that is sort of like a slight concern with the future of the Tales series. It does kind of seem like they're maybe kind of watering it down a little bit. It's not a bad battle system by any means, and it's still fun. It still kind of feels like a Tales game, but it definitely feels like they're kind of trying to focus more towards something that's more standard, trying to kind of evolve the series, which is fine. I definitely will say this. I would definitely prefer it to be a watered-down hack-and-slash action RPG than I would sort of like a, you know, old-school Dragon Quest or old-school Final Fantasy 1 sort of style turn-based RPG. Even Tales of Crestoria, which I haven't talked about yet, because I keep forgetting, like, kind of how they did it to where it was almost more like Mega Man X Command Mission, to where it's like, you changed your target and did your items and attacked in real time. So, like, there wasn't, you still had to plan for stuff, and there was still turn-based aspects to it, but, you know, it was done a lot faster. And it, you know, kind of like Valkyrie Profile in a way too, where your action button is more like your attack button and stuff. I actually kind of like that of turn-based. Arno Surge kind of does the same thing, and Artona Lico, which is another turn-based RPG, I actually kind of like. You know, it's fast-paced, and, you know, The Legend of Heroes, A Tear of Vermilion or whatever, that's another turn-based RPG that I like, and that one kind of did movement and stuff, where your placement kind of mattered, and almost like a tactics game. But also the story was really refined, and all three of the games from that trilogy are great in my opinion. But anyway, we're not talking about other games, we're talking about Tales of Arise. So, yeah, that's probably, I don't even know if I want to say really a criticism, but it's definitely something that I noticed, because ever since I saw that trailer, I'm thinking like, okay, I can kind of get behind this. But then after I played it, I'm all like, well, interesting. This seems a little stiff and a little more complicated. I feel like I have to kind of plan my moves more. I might maybe try and play the demo again at some point and kind of play with it and sort of mess around a little more, see what all I can do, see if I can find some cool secrets. I mainly play as Alphen. I did try Duhalim and Law a little bit. I liked Law because, you know, fist fighter. Duhalim, I feel like I just maybe picked the wrong arts. I don't know. He's definitely pretty cool, though. I may just use him in my party. I didn't really change the party too much, so it was Alphen, Shion, Rimwell, and Law. So a pretty standard, you know, crew. I typically don't even really use the mages that much. Since Rimwell's my wife, who I might have to use her in my party. I'm not really a mage caster kind of guy. I'm more of a close quarters, you know, melee offensive type, so... But I did look at ours, and I do like how they have been doing the typical Tales thing these days, starting really with they started with Destiny 2, but then they kind of went away from it in Symphonia, then brought it back with I guess Abyss, where like the mages and the cleric have sort of like melee attacks as well that they can do, which is useful if you want to play as a certain character but you don't want to use magic, but also if you want to have a melee move to sort of like get enemies off you if you're having to sort of go solo and stuff. But in one of the skits, she does talk about how she can sort of like hold on to a spell and then unleash it at the right moment, which is cool. Kind of a nice little throwback. I didn't see too many callbacks to other Tales games, mainly because I wasn't really looking for them. I'll have to play the demo again. And see, that's the thing too. Even with my opinion on the combat, and the busyness of the menus in combat and sort of like the watered downness of it and all that, I still want to play the game again. I want to play the demo again. I'm looking forward to it. Every single new thing that comes from Tales of Arise that I see, I get more and more excited about it. I was skeptical at first, but then my expectations and, praise and excitement for the game arose, literally. That's probably why it's called Tales of Arise, because it's making my feelings for it arise and making me interested in playing the series again. Because I never finished Definitive Edition. I still need to finish Abyss 3DS. I still need to finish Symphonia Chronicles. Never finished Innocence or Tempest. I know there's been some fan translation stuff that's been coming out recently, which I think is good for the series. I'm not really focusing on it too much, primarily because the group I'm interested in haven't finished their translations yet, so I kind of want to see what they do with that, because they've got some plans. But, I guess I should note that there's a full English translation of Destiny Director's Cut available now, which that's been nice. And, we're still waiting on the Rebirth thing, but, who knows? I feel like over time we may be... and there's actually a rumor of a Destiny remaster for PS4 and whatnot. I don't know what's going to come of that. Though that same leak revealed Dragon Ball Z Kakarot for the Switch, but ended up being true. But yeah, that's my general thoughts on this demo and sort of kind of where the series is at right now. This is kind of off the cuff for me. I didn't really take too much time to process my opinions too much besides just writing them down. And I haven't really played too much of the demo. Again, I played a little bit of it after completing it. It's not a very long demo either. But in my opinion, they seem to pack a lot. Just because it just seems like there's so much you can do. But it's mainly a field thing, and you fight a couple bosses. Which I also do like how when you fight a boss, their HP shows up at the top. I thought that was a nice touch, and sort of to give you like it's a kind of a more dynamic sort of like visual representation of, hey, you're fighting a boss, besides the fact that this giant thing is trying to kill you. That's like bigger and tougher than all the other enemies you fought. Combat in general wasn't really that difficult either. I died mainly at the bosses, but I would get low on regular enemies because of the stuff I said about, the combat. I don't want to repeat myself too much. This video is already relatively long. Not as long as I thought it was going to be, though. Probably because I have the notes. But the footage, I recorded the entire thing. So that's a good, almost 2 hours. I'm not going to show the entire thing. That's mainly for me. I did the same thing with the Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 beta back then. I still have the footage of that. So, and I think I have footage of another beta somewhere. But, yeah. That's what I think about Tales of Arise at the moment. The game is coming out September 9th in Japan, then September 10th worldwide. I already have the PS4 Collector's Edition pre-ordered, and I'm looking forward to playing it. I do have some issues, but again, my opinions are my own. They don't represent anyone that I work with or anyone I'm associated with. They're just my opinions. Take them as just my opinions, and if you have a problem with them, talk to me personally. Comment on this video telling me what you think. If you're mean, I'll probably ignore it, but if you have a good point, we can maybe have a conversation. That's fine. I'm not opposed to being told I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, that's fine. And I will maybe tell you that I think you're wrong as well, or that I disagree. I don't usually throw the you're wrong that often. But yeah, it's just my opinion. I enjoy the demo still, and I find everything that's going on pretty interesting, and I think the next Tales game will be pretty interesting. I feel like how well this Tales game does may sort of paint what the future of the series will be. It's hard to kind of say, but I feel like this is sort of like a weird trial period maybe for the future of the series. It could be that this is like the new standard, and again, if it is the new standard and they streamline it and make it really polished, that is great. I will always love the series. They would have to just take away all the charm of the story and the characters, and cancel the series and not make any more games for me to not be interested in it. And even then, I have other series that Bandai Namco produce, like Dragon Ball and Dark Souls and other games that I can fall back on if it came to that. which that has crossed my mind a couple of times. Like I said, I was kind of prepared for that with Berseria because of the whole, charred remains thing. Even though that's clearly not what's going on. If anything, this is sort of like a phoenix rising from the ashes. See, that's why they picked Kiara to sponsor the game, or to be the ambassador of the game. So, yep, that's what I think. I hope you guys enjoyed sort of like this little long video. I look forward to playing the game and giving the game my full attention and seeing what it's all about and all that jazz. And yeah, pretty fun. Once again, I would like to thank Bandai Namco Entertainment America and Abyssal Chronicles for providing me with an early access code for the demo. And that's it. I look forward to playing the game. Think it's going to be pretty cool. This is Flames Are On, aka Tasuke, signing out. See you later.